Hey, Engraver here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another SuperCollider demo. And we are back in granular synthesis. Today we're going to be exploring ambient tones. I'm really trying to push myself to producing longer, darker ambient tones with granular synthesis. I don't want to default to creating an instrument for something that you may have seen like in MIDI protocol where it's more melodic, where it's more of that embellishment or maybe an arpeggiation. I really want to stick to tones that reflect that down-tempo genre, as you would hear in Ultimae Records, for instance, the artists under Ultimae. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and go over the structure I have so far. I don't have much. It's actually been a day of just structuring the score and coming up with sounds in different positions inside the sound file. And the sound file I'm using is the first violin track, as heard probably several videos ago. For now, I'm going to disregard the syntax with the tempo clock. It's just going to default in its original tempo clock. I think that is 1 beat for every second, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and evaluate my reverb synth. And I have a couple things going on here. I have buses and groups assigned. And as you can see, I have the melody bus and group here with reverb bus here, our granular synthesis group and reverb group, followed by a synth, which I will call Gran Melody. Now, full disclosure, I actually don't have it in this score. I'm trying to keep it nice and tight and as brief as possible until I actually do work with sounds that will generate some kind of melody. In this case, we're going to scroll down and we're going to work with ambience only. And for that, I have a separate bus and group for that. So not much difference in the names, just besides adding 1 to the name. And hopefully I don't forget or get confused, but I think it's a good enough system. So you see the 2 groups here. And we are going to, well, before we evaluate this, it's not going to recognize the synth called Gran Ambient. So I will go ahead and evaluate this. And scroll back up, and now this should be fine. There we go. So if you had caught that there was a synth that released itself about after 1 or 2 seconds, and our reverb synth is in our group, that is fixed, so we can hear that sound with the reverb. And if I want to free it, I have these options here, and ultimately freeing the groups as well, but I don't need to do that right now. Now I want to point out a distinction I made. This synth here, it's going to have the same name as this synth down here, and in fact it's pretty much the same synth besides one difference, and that is this is our dust trigger for our density control, as I have talked about on previous videos. And this, while having the same name, this is actually going to have our impulse as our density control. And I have that distinctly notated inside the score. And if it comes to be a nuisance, then I would just simply have a name like Ambient Dust and make sure I add the appropriate bus and group with that new name, like that. But it works without doing that much, so we'll just go ahead and do that. I had already evaluated this. Now, we will start with the dust trigger, which I do like, and I will not be using the Eugen splay here, where we have all that multi-channel expansion distributed in the stereophonic space. We actually don't have anything outside 2 channels, which we will hear anyway, and I just like that effect a little bit more. As far as the grain duration, I think for now I'll do 2 just to be efficient, and we'll see how that sounds. Now I will evaluate that since I made that correction. And skipping our ambient instrument with impulse and display, you can see that I don't have that commented out. We are going to do our first p-bind, and that is going to be ambient with dust. Let's go ahead and take it away. I have it, I'll just put it in its original pitch, that nice D above middle C. And I've been playing with positions all day and marking which position I like or which position, where in the sound file the sound is distinct and colorful. So let's play around with these values in this position key, this start position. I'm not going to mess with panning or any of the frequency control or any of that right now. This is just for sound. That's all well and good, but I like this texture in a lower register, so I'm going down 1.5 octaves. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go down 1 more octave. So this is 2.5 octaves. -30 is down 2.5 octaves. Let's add a little bit more length to the minimum duration, where the maximum value is 1 second in length. So that's definitely more of that pulsing, and it's not stuttered like you would hear with dust. I like that length for that long, dark tone. Let's change the position. So I have it at 39% into the sound file. I'm going to try 69. So you can hear that grainy scarcity, you know, the separation with a little bit of grain clusters, because now the pulse is between 10 and 11 per second. Now I think I'm going to try something. Well, we'll start with 80 and 81, so values that are close together. And I'm going to go even lower, so a full 3 octaves lower than the original pitch. I like that because the length inside that sound file is extracting the harmonic in the violin or the harmonics in the violin. Maybe not as even between the ears, but it could work. Now we'll go from 8 as our minimum to 80 and see how that sounds. Could be jarring. That's a nice effect. Now let's go quite short. 1/1000th of a second as a duration to 1 full second. So now we're coming on to textures that I do hear the artists do, which really excites me. I've been wanting to do this kind of color in my experimental music for a long time. I like that. Now we're going to raise it 1 octave, still low in register, and let's go ahead and pull out another value. I would say, let's try 52. Oh, I think I did that. In fact, I think that was my first value, if I can remember. I would say then, let's do 28. So 28% in the sound file. Actually, I want to go smaller than 10. I would say, let's do 3. This might not be effective, but we'll see. I like that going in and out of nothing for pockets of time, then to something much more full. When I say fuller, I mean crossing some length of time. That's quite nice, I like that. Let's try 1. I would say let's do a little over 1 octave. So 1 octave plus 1/3 below the original pitch. And we'll go back to the original pitch, which actually you don't need to mark it as anything. I would say, let's do 97% in. So this is at the end of the sound file where I may be decaying. And so this can work with higher frequency, but there is a very high partial emitting, if you can hear that kind of silvery white whistle above the main notes. Let's try Ambient, my ambient instrument, but instead of the dust trigger, let's go ahead and do impulse, and I will include splay for this. So the actual note event is working between 3 pulses and 30 pulses. But let's be a little bit more dramatic. We'll go down an octave. I don't really particularly like these sounds at a higher frequency. Still much to be explored there. I think I'll do 39 again. So you can see that I have a longer release, 2 seconds longer, so there will be some overlap. Let's try a new part in the sound file. I'm actually going to go back to just one for now and do the original pitch. And let's do 20 and 22. That's nice. It's got a nice sustain to it. Very interesting. With impulse, it does sound a little buzzy, you know, kind of like an old machine that's just humming away. So I have to be careful with impulse. I don't know, maybe 15 and 17. I like that cutting away of the frequency and going to something very, very short, where you can't really discern the pitch. That's a very nice effect. I like it with splay, but I also like it without. And we'll go ahead and try the original pitch. Very cool. It's a very cool effect. And we'll go up a fifth. That's interesting. Especially if I add harmony to it. So we'll see what I come up with there. I'm really trying to shoot for the darker, lower tones, you know, that lower register. But if it sounds cool, I'll try to work that in as well. And again, this is just from one sound file, so I can experiment a lot. I can come up with a lot with just one sound file. I think I'll stop there. Thank you always for watching and listening. Always be on the lookout for some more sound experimentation every Thursday and some live commentary every Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern Time. And until I see you next, keep producing the art you love, and I will see you next time. Thanks again.